C, oh my god, you gotta review SWAMPFOX stuff. You gotta review SWAMPFOX stuff. Well, here we are, with, of course, their hostile engagement MSR mount. Duh. Okay, all joking aside, I've been wanting to get my hands on some SWAMPFOX stuff, and lo and behold, a couple weeks ago, I finally managed to do a pretty good score on some stuff, this and an LPVO, which we'll be looking at relatively quickly, soon, rather. And I figured let me start with the mount and work my way up. Now, this is the first time I've gotten my hands on anything SWAMPFOX related. I did look through an Arrowhead a couple months ago at the range, and it wasn't so bad. I think it was a 1 to 8. And for the price that they come in at, anywhere from low 300s to mid 400s, it seemed pretty good. But everything always seems pretty good on face value. Once we dive in a little bit deeper, we really see what it's made out of. Anyway, this MSR mount you can find for around $130 to $150. This one is the $130 one because it does not have the weight savings cuts in it, as you are about to see. The box and packaging, however, is really nice. As good as you'd expect from any sort of manufacturer. The foam is precisely cut for this mount. It comes with its own little tool, which is always nice to see. And the mount itself, if I can get it out of here, this is how well it's squeezed in there. There you go. Put that off to the side. The mount itself, the mount itself looks pretty nice. But this thing feels like it's got some heft to it. So before we go anywhere else, let's see what this thing clocks in at. I'm sorry, but 9.6 ounces is a lot of weight. Yes, this is still $130, which might sound like a lot or not a lot of money, but you can basically get into a Midwest Industries cantilever QD mount for about the same price. And if I remember correctly, a little bit less weight, and you're getting yourself an American-made, high-quality product, whereas this is not American-made. To give you an idea, which I actually haven't reviewed them yet, they're on the table to get finished reviewed, but let me throw in some alternatives, like this Vortex cantilever mount, which comes in around $100 and comes in 3 ounces lighter. Or let's go one step further with this Aero Precision Ultralight, which comes in at even less money, basically half the price of one of these, for, as near as makes no difference, a third the weight. All right, maybe this thing makes up for it. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up like I do on all of my mount reviews. You can see we have 2 engagements for our pick rail. And if I take my mounting block and slide this on, there's a fair amount of play there. Not like it ultimately really matters, but it would be nice to see this be a little bit more snug than this. You only get 2 cross bolts that come through, which is fine. These are fairly large. I believe they're T25 on both the cross slide, and the caps themselves are a lot smaller. I think they're like around a T15, just about. This is all by eye. I haven't pulled any of my tools out to check, but that's about it. I mean, you have a nice large claw engagement. And you got the 2 little blocks on the inside, which is going to be more or less fine, because no matter what, you want to push this forward to prevent any sort of recoil shift. And as long as you torque these down to proper specs, it should be okay. You do have a nice wide flat base, which I do enjoy, but the finish on this thing is not really good feeling. It feels rough in a way like it hasn't been properly cleaned up or deburred before anodizing. And the edges over here are sharp. There's been no deburring to this on top whatsoever. Now, that might not be a huge mark for you guys, but if there's a slight raised edge on here and you come in here with a caliper micrometer to twist it up to level it like how I like to do, that can throw off how level your scope is in the mount ever so slightly. And it's something to consider. The caps themselves have a slightly different finish, as you can see right there, to the rest of the mount body. So either this was coated with something different, or these are 2 different materials and it just took the coating differently. You have 4 mounting screws on both the front and the rear, and you do have these little threaded holes on the sides to mount little base plates for it if you want to do an offset micro red dot or something along those lines. You do have 2 pressed in steel little inserts, so this way you don't have to worry about stripping out base mount if you're torquing these cross slides, which is a nice touch. You have a fair amount of thread engagement on the bottom, so you don't have to worry about stripping them out, and there is a little bit of blue Loctite on there, which is nice. Anyway, I'm going to put that off to the side. We do, as you can see, have these little cross holes right here, which are protruding through the bottom. And then we have this tape, which I've seen on very inexpensive rings, like $15, $20 rings. And that alarms me, because that means that they couldn't get this thing to be perfectly true when they were machining it, and thus you have to have the tape there to take up any slack, or their tolerances on these bores were either a little bit too big or a little bit too small. Actually, no, it'd be larger than smaller. Smaller wouldn't fit whatsoever. I don't like that for a number of reasons. The first thing is it means that these aren't as precise as most other rings that don't have this tape, because the tape is there as filler, basically. I don't like this whatsoever. Not only that, but if you go to put this on, so I've had experience in the past where this stuff sort of gets gummy and sticks to the tube of the scope. Not ideal in that sense, but you know what? I'm going to mount a scope on this, and we're going to see how well this thing returns to zero, because that's a really good mark and indication of how well it's been machined. If you can torque it to a rail, zero it, take it off, and put it on a couple of times to see if it's going to go back perfectly each and every time. All right, we have the SWAMPFOX mount. I got it torqued up. I'm going to loosen it. Two screws on the side, as you saw. As you can see, it is loose. Push it forward. I'll snug them both up before getting to the torque settings of 40 inch-pounds. Both of them are snug. I'm going to go to the front. Tight, rear, tight. And we are shifted slightly left, but that's not too bad. That's only 1/10 of a mil off. Optic being used for this is the Optica 6 3-18 that I reviewed so many months ago. Good little optic. Okay, we are loose again. You can see I'm moving back and forth, pushing forward, snugging up the front, snugging up the rear, going back to the front. Torque, torque. And we're still about 0.1 of a mil off, but that's at least consistent. So that's good. However, I did the exact same procedure when I first lined it up, and it was 1/10 of a mil off. So there are a lot of variables to this. Okay, again, we are loose, pushing forward, snugging up the front, snugging up the rear, front, and rear. Okay, now we are I'd say 2.5 clicks off. Yeah, 2.5 clicks off. Let's do this one more time, just for science sake. If you think this video is long and boring, then this is not the video for you. This is science, baby. Forward, snugging up the front, snugging up the rear, torquing the front, torquing the rear, and we got about 1.5 to 2 clicks. So there you have it. This is so far the worst resetting scope mount I have gotten my hands on. And yes, I know it's designed to just be mounted up and used, and that's fine. But regardless to that fact, this thing still does not reset properly. And that only goes to prove my point earlier about this tape on these rings, that it's not machined all too well. I don't know why the fuck this thing is as expensive as it is, pardon my language. And yes, I know this is a slightly older model from the ones that are available with all the cutouts on it, which is probably why I got it for a decent price. But nevertheless, this thing was brand new, and it just doesn't impress me whatsoever. Spend your money elsewhere. That's all I'm going to say. Midwest Industries mounts, the Vortec cantilever mount, which you're going to find out, Aero Precision. There's so many different mounts you can get that are a little bit cheaper and a lot nicer and weigh a lot less. This thing's fucking almost 10 ounces. What? I just don't get it. Anyway, that's going to be all for this video. I want to get away from this thing as fast as I can. If this is a sign of things to come with the LPVO that I got, I'm not going to be too thrilled, but we'll get there together. But I do have to thank my patrons for this, because it's thanks to them that I was able to fund this mount for review. And I gotta say, I'm sorry for wasting your money. Don't worry, I'm going to sell this or give it away if no one wants to buy it, and I'll go from there. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you have a Merry Christmas. And a very huge thank you to all of my Patreon providers. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to help support the channel but don't want to join my Patreon, I completely understand. But you can still help support by using my affiliate links in the description below. Thanks again for watching.